Hey, I'm Kevin Boyle with Wood Magazine. Today I'm going to talk about installing some drawer slides. I've got a cabinet base here with a face frame, and you'll notice there's no internal parts in here, so really it doesn't lend a lot of opportunity to attach drawer slides to the side of a, say like a case cabinet that's frameless. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use some specialty hardware that's available often where you're buying your drawer slides to install these slides. Come over here to the bench. We'll go through these. First off, we've got an epoxy coated slide. Now these slides you've seen just about anywhere, probably in your bathroom maybe. Advantages, they're cheap, they're easy to install, and they work great. Service for a lifetime. You can buy these adapters so you can slide your drawer slides into the back of that, giving you some place to attach the back of the cabinet and the face frame. Next, full extension slides. Ball bearing, heavy duty. So if you got an application where you need a lot of weight in your drawer or you really want to get access to the whole drawer, these work great too. These come same sort of setup. You got these little brackets that slide right on the back of that slide, snap in place easily, give you a nice place to attach this back member in your cabinet, and these also happen to come with a front bracket too. And then finally, for kind of a lesser weight rating sort of application, maybe you want to maximize the drawer width. You know, with these first two slides, you give up about an inch in your drawer space. You know, with this one, you can pretty much go almost all the way out, about 1/8 of an inch away from either side of your face frame. And the disadvantage of these slides, I would say, is probably weight. Not really a heavy-duty slide, but works really good. These also come with a bracket that mounts right on the back of the cabinet, and your slide snaps right into that. So let's install some drawers. So we've got our drawer here, and the first thing first is the epoxy slides come in two parts. You've got a slide that attaches to the drawer box itself, and you've got a slide that attaches to the cabinet. These are also in right and left, but conveniently for us, these are marked. They'll have a right or a left on them. And basically what you want to do, and on the drawer, the wheel goes in the back. On the case side, wheel goes in the front. If you can't remember that, just remember that these are marked right and left. So as you're looking at the drawer, right would be your right hand. So one other additional thing I like to do when I'm installing these slides is to keep it back from the front edge of the drawer just a skosh, maybe about 30 seconds. You don't want it butting right up against the front. Okay, now that we have the slides installed on our drawer, we're going to head over to the cabinet and we'll get these installed. Simply take this adjusting mounting bracket, you slide it on the back of your slide. I like to leave it all the way out or pretty close to that because basically once you stick your drawer slide in there, you kind of push that back, adjust it so your drawer slides just back from the edge of the face frame. Kind of like the drawer, just back from the edge. Now, there are jigs that are all commonly available on the market, and this just happens to be one that you can actually lock your drawer slide through magnets right on the side here. This kind of holds it steady, and it also holds it right where you want it to be in the cabinet. So the first thing I want to do is get that drawer slide just back from the front edge of the cabinet, and then we're going to drive a screw. Now these slides are pretty light, so you can kind of see that that holds itself up there pretty easy. And most guys have a little torpedo level at home, and if you don't, they're pretty inexpensive and they're pretty handy, especially ones with a little magnetic strip on them, because you can just click that thing right down on that drawer slide, and then you can check to make sure it's level. When I know that my drawer slide's level, I know that I can attach that back through one of the horizontal holes, because if I know it's level up and down, I know that I'm pretty close on that. So I know that most of my adjustment when I get the drawer in is going to be side to side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive a screw in one of those horizontal holes. So we'll have that in place. Now I'm just going to repeat for the other side, do the same thing, and then we'll grab our drawer and see where we're at. Okay, so we've got our drawer and it's moving in and out pretty good. One of the things I do is, you saw me cinch those screws down, is I come in with a screwdriver and I kind of back them out so they're not falling out loose, but they're just a little loose. So basically what happens is that drawer goes in and it kind of corrects where it needs to go so it's not pinching at the back. The other thing I want to check for is I want to make sure the drawer's, the drawer's still pretty level. So as the drawer face sits in there, it's not tilting back and forth like that. I've got that under control because I use my handy guide to do that. But the one thing you want to check is take a straight edge, place it over the face frame, bridging that, check the drawer. And I can see this drawer sits perfectly flush with the face frame, or just a little beyond behind it, which is great. This side, unfortunately, is not. It's sticking out about 1/8 of an inch, which means I need to shift this drawer this way a little bit. Unfortunately, this back screw, when it's in that slot, I've got no more adjustment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive another screw into this slot, except I'm going to move it on the opposite side. That gives me that much more room for adjustment. Then go ahead and back that one out. Now I've kind of rotated the drawer around. Now you can see I'm flat on this side, I'm flat on that side. Drawer sits pretty level. It's moving in and out nice and easy. It doesn't feel like it's getting hung up on anything. So basically at this point, all you got to do is drive a few more screws into these back brackets. Make sure you don't move it around too much when you're driving them, but I like to pick one of those single round holes, not the slotted ones, and drive a couple screws in those, and then you're ready to go. I showed you how to install these drawer slides with this handy jig, but I also wanted to kind of cover something. You don't need this jig to install. This is handy to kind of hold the jig in place for you. It also helps keep that drawer slide parallel with the side of the cabinet, which is very important, but there's ways of fixing that without this jig. Let me show you how that works. Basically, I'm going to attach the front of the slide to the face frame just like I did with the jig. Then I'm simply going to take a measurement. I'm going to measure what that distance is to the back side of that slide. Simply transfer to the back of the case. I'm going to measure there. I want to make sure that measurement stays consistent. It's doing the same thing that the jig would do. The other slide, you're just simply going to measure across and do the same thing over here too. Now, obviously, if it's not perfectly fit in there, you can make those adjustments as we showed earlier. We're going to install full extension drawer slides now. These are ball bearing slides, heavy duty, and these are a two-part slide too. But where I start is I like to start with the drawer, and I leave the slide all together first. I simply lay, these are not a right and left slide, so either way, up or down, just make sure you've got the small portion of, inner portion of the slide is going to go towards the front of the drawer. So I'm going to engage that, and I want to line up that drawer slide with the bottom of the drawer. Some people like to center them on the drawer, and that's fine too. I just prefer to do it here because then I know I've got it lined up and it's straight, it's not at an angle. So use a straight edge, whatever you need to do. Just make sure that drawer slide lines up with the bottom edge of that drawer, and then you know it's going to be straight. I like to put one hole or one screw in the very front. Then I slide the slide back, and I like to put one in the very back. You can always come back later and add more screws. Okay, so now that I've got that installed, I can simply pull this lever down and disengage the slide, pull off the part that's going to be attached to the cabinet. Let me go ahead and flip this over. Make sure you're doing, the front's now going this way, so make sure you've installed that correctly. I don't know about you, but I have installed drawer slides backwards before. Had one going one way and one going the other. The drawer didn't work too well. All right, so now we've got her lined up again on this side. We're going to go ahead and put 2 screws in the slide. Okay, so now we're ready to install the other part of the slide on the case. So let's head on over there. Next up, we're going to install the other part of the slide to the cabinet. Now to do that, we've got to slide on these rear mounting brackets. You slide them right on the back of the slide, snap them in place. They can slide around, they can adjust. Slots in the back, gives you plenty of adjustability. These also have a bracket that mounts to the front. And that simply just drops that tab right in that big hole and it flips right up. Gives you two nice indentations here that fit real snug up against the back of the face frame. Gives you a real positive feel there. We slid the drawer slide in there. We're going to fit it right up tight against the back of the face frame. You'll feel it fitting right in those indentations on that bracket. We're ready to drive our first screw. Next up is we're going to drive a screw in this rear bracket. But before I do, I'm going to stick a little level on there. And if you don't have a level with a magnet on the bottom of them like this one, just take a piece of Scotch tape or something like that and loosely tie it on. You just want to make sure you're getting this drawer slide level. I do that first, and once I know it's level, I'm then going to drive a screw through that long slotted or the horizontal slotted hole. I'm not going to do it real tight. Just going to do it kind of loose there at first, still level. Then I'm going to take a measurement in the front here and see how far away that back side of that slide is to the inside case. I'm going to take that same measurement in back and make sure I'm parallel to the side. It looks like I'm going to have to move my screw over just a little bit more. Take another measurement. It's good. Okay, so we can go ahead and tighten that one up for now. We're level and we're perpendicular to the face frame. So now we're going to do the second slide. Same way. Slide that bracket right on the back side. Lock it in place. Drop the bracket on the front. Just like before. Screw. All right, well, I'm in the ballpark there. I'm going to go ahead and drive into that center hole slot. I think it looks pretty good. Okay, so now we're ready to install the drawer and check our fit. Now we're going to line it up on both sides here. It's going to be a little tight pushing this drawer in. That's just re-engaging that mechanism, but then when you pull it out, nice and smooth. One thing to check here is we'll check the face. Make sure it's flat to the face frame. Make sure it's flat across the front too, because you don't want it crooked because your drawer face won't sit on there straight. We're looking pretty good. So we can go ahead and add a couple more screws to the back and a couple more screws to the front of our brackets, and this thing's ready for service. I'm going to install a center mount drawer slide to this drawer. Now a couple things before we install this slide we need to make sure we do first. One, if we're going to use center mount drawer slides, we want to plan on making our drawer bottom a little bit thicker. This just gives us some meat to drive screws into. Typically a 1/4 inch bottom is just not enough meat. If you want to use 1/4 inch, that's fine, but you want to give yourself enough room to put a spacer in the bottom. At least have a 1/2 inch material to screw into. I just choose to go ahead and do a 1/2 inch plywood drawer bottom whenever I'm going to use these center mount slides. That way it's covered. The next thing we'll need to know is if it's going to be is this drawer slide going to need to go through the drawer false front or not? And the reason we'll want to know that is this going to be an overlay drawer or an inset drawer. An inset drawer, you wouldn't need to cut this opening. If it's an overlay drawer, you might as well go ahead and do that. And the reason for that, we're going to show you a little bit later. It gives you more meat on the face frame to screw into. And when we get over to the cabinet, I'll show you why. First thing we do though is I like to install It's a two-part slide. I like to stall. Just pull those things apart, kind of tough. I like to install the first half of this drawer slide to the bottom of the drawer first. And simply, all we need to do is find our center. Our drawer here is about 13 inches wide, so 6.5 inches front and back. Line it up with the holes, that way you know you're pretty close to the center. You also want to make sure you use some pretty flat, low profile screws. That way they don't interfere with the two slides sliding back and forth. Screw that in place, making sure that that slide in the front is just back from the front edge. And in the back. And we can come back and add a couple more screws later. So now we're going to head over to the cabinet and we'll install the other part of the slide. Okay, as I said earlier, whether to notch or not to notch. If you're not going to notch, that would be in an application where your drawer face is inset, so it's flush with the face frame. If it's flush with the face frame, that means that drawer guide can't go all the way to the front and get on and screw onto that. It's got to sit behind that. In that case, you'd need to add a little block and just simply glue on a piece of 3/4 inch material right on the back side of that, flush with the top, gives you a good place to screw that down. In our case, we're going to let our drawer face extend out. It's going to be an overlay. So this, basically the false front, is flush with the face frame. That means I can use that face frame member to attach my drawer slide to. So first things first, I'm going to find the center of my opening. Got a 14-inch opening. That's pretty easy math. 7 inches be our center. Set the slide in place. Just back from the front edge, just a touch. I'm going to drive a screw in place. Okay, so now we're going to extend our back bracket back to the back of the cabinet here. And I'm going to use a little torpedo level. I'm going to sit right on that slide. That way I can make sure I get it perfectly plumb. It's important that your cabinet's sitting on a plumb surface too. I'm also going to measure over, find my center of that slide, or find the edge, whatever's easiest to measure to, and make sure that measurement corresponds in the back. And once you've got that, you raise it up until it's perfectly level. Attach the first screw. Okay, so now we're going to test fit here. Sliding that drawer into the slide. Looks like we got a nice fit. There's one thing left to do on this setup. We'll pull our drawer out for a second. You notice how it kind of wobbled when it was in there. These come with these there's hard plastic tacks. And basically these go on either side of the drawer. Make sure you line them up with the drawer sides. That'll keep that drawer from moving back and forth. We're ready to reinstall. It's a nice fit. Add a couple more screws and she's ready to go.